Thank you so much, Susan. And it's such a privilege to be here around this fire, this campfire. And today I'd like to tell two stories. And the first story is the story of a cyclone. Now, Cyclone Idai 4 years ago was one of the worst tropical cyclones on record to affect Africa and the Southern Hemisphere. This long-lived storm caused catastrophic damage and humanitarian crises in Madagascar, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Malawi, killing almost 1,600 people and being recorded as the deadliest tropical cyclone recorded in the Southern Hemisphere, which includes Australia, the South Pacific, and South Atlantic basins. Idai, as it was called, was ranked as the second deadliest tropical cyclone on record. This cyclone caused severe flooding in the region. More than 3 million people experienced the direct effects of the cyclones, with hundreds of thousands in need of assistance. Infrastructural damage from Idai totaled at least $1 billion. And along with that, we had all sorts of diseases, including sexual exploitation, diseases, and women and children being most effective, especially through the different violences that took place, direct and more subtle structural and cultural violences. Now, why do I talk about this cyclone? What is very interesting is that in the random naming of the cyclone, it was given the name Idai, which in Shona is an injunction to love. It is an order, it is a command to love. Love is not just a fanciful emotion, according to our indigenous knowledge systems. And love, from an African perspective, is a cosmology. Love is a philosophy. Love is a methodology. Love is a task. Cyclone Idai, the second deadliest tropical cyclone on record, was a wake-up call to love. The second story I'd like to talk about is the Niger. Now, the Niger is a river in West Africa, and it arises in the Guinea Highlands, a mere 240 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean. Yet, instead of following the course of commonly understood logic by traveling those 240 kilometers to the ocean, it instead moves inward towards the desert, deep into the Sahara Desert in Mali. And once in the desert, instead of following this course towards the Mediterranean Sea, it makes a surprising right turn near the city of Timbuktu, following a meandering journey through Niger, Benin, and Nigeria, and eventually discharging into the Atlantic Ocean at the Gulf of Guinea. What should have been, according to modern science, a 240-kilometer journey from the highlands of the Guinea Highlands to the Atlantic Ocean instead became a sinuous crescent-shaped 4,180 kilometers of river. And as a consequence of this inefficient route, the Niger loses 2/3 of its potential flow to seepage and evaporation. And because the gradient drastically decreases, it reduces its flow potential, and thus it becomes slow, it becomes sluggish in its trek towards the ocean. But the loss of this potential is the formation of the Niger Delta, a series of braided streams, a series of marshes, and a series of lakes as large as Belgium. The Niger Delta is the largest wetland in Africa and the third largest in the world, with an ecosystem containing one of the highest concentrations of biodiversity on the planet. And apart from supporting abundant rainforests, flora, and fauna, it has large stretches of arable land that sustains diverse agricultural systems. It is home to more than 30 million people, made up of more than 40 different ethnic groups. So this delta is a result of an inefficient river, but this inefficiency breeds effectiveness. It is effective in bringing life. It is effective in bringing a wellspring of diversity and nourishment. And tragically, this diversity could soon be destroyed due to extensive dam construction, poisoning of the waters due to oil spills, and thus this abundant biodiverse delta is gradually becoming sustained to ecocide. Now, why do I tell these two stories? The tales of Cyclone Idai and the tale of the Niger River are the tales of our indigenous knowledge systems or ancient wisdoms. They're the tales of our ways of knowing and our ways of doing and our ways of sustaining. They're the tales of ways that have roots in our communities, but are situated within a broader social context in which all life forms are the result between our social and spiritual relations. These two stories are the tales of knowledge that is transmitted orally through initiation, through demonstration, through observation. They are tales of experiential knowledge rather than theoretical. They are tales of knowledge that is inherently interlinked to the understanding of the environment. They are tales of knowledge that is dynamic, constantly adapting, that is regenerative, and that is ecological. And these are our indigenous knowledge systems, which are knowledges of both plurality and singularity. Now, these ways of knowing are those that bring together a web of interconnectedness, interrelatedness, interdependence, which, according to our indigenous African perspectives, is known as the cosmic truth of Ma'at, or Ubuntu, the interconnectedness, the interrelatedness of all that is, the interrelatedness between reasoned beings or persons, those of sound, the interrelatedness between those that are not reasoned, between things, the interrelatedness between time and space, the interrelatedness between the tangible and the intangible, that which reminds us that all is related through singularity, the dynamic, causative life force that we call Ntu. So this knowledge of ours is a knowledge and a method that listens to the rhythm of the oceans, that listens to the language of the rivers, that listens to the codes of the mountains, the breath of the wind, the words of the birds, the silent steps of the elephant, the branches of the forest. It brings us into dominion and not domination. It brings us into communion and not contamination. It brings us into harmony and resonance with the essence of life. It is that which is the language of nature. It is that which is carried by the feminine, who have the inherent genetic coding of nature. And when we follow this way of Neter or nature, we're then able to find possibilities for creativity and innovation. We're able to find possibilities for mitigation and transformation. We're able to find possibilities for healing and restoration. This is Niger, the inefficient yet effective route. And this is Idai, the injunction, the cosmology, the methodology to love. I thank you.